Welcome back to Botany class. In the previous class, we discussed principles of ecology. Let's move on to the next chapter, chapter 7, ecosystem. Ecosystem, which includes structure and function of ecosystem. Structure and its function. We are going to concentrate structure and functions of ecosystem. Now, what is meant by ecosystem? Ecosystem, Odom explained that ecosystem is the structure and functional unit of ecology. The structure and functional unit of ecology is called as ecosystem. Have you seen pond, pools in your surroundings? They are called water bodies. These water bodies includes biotic as well as abiotic components. Abiotic and biotic components. You know very well biotic as well as abiotic. The biotic components includes plants as well as animals. Plants and animals. Abiotic components, which includes in the water bodies, mud, nutrients, gases, then air, and what are water. What are the non-living objects are present? It's called abiotic component. Nutrients, this all. But biotic components includes plants, micro as well as macro organisms, the phytoplankton, zooplanktons, algae. There are some examples of algae: hydrilla, nymphia, Nilambo. Then animals including small fish, large fish, tortoise. These all organisms are near the water bodies, or they are the components of biotic as well as abiotic components. So these components, biotic as well as abiotic components, interact each other. The biotic as well as abiotic components. There is a leader process in plants, that is photosynthesis. What's the definition of photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is the process by which green plants prepares its own food in the form of carbohydrate. That's the organic compound, carbohydrate, manufacture of carbohydrate by utilizing certain materials like water, carbon dioxide, and the pigment chlorophyll. Water, carbon dioxide, plants utilizes water, carbon dioxide, chlorophyll, and traps sunlight, the source of energy. Sunlight, it traps and converts this light energy into chemical energy. Light energy is converted into chemical energy and it manufactures the food carbohydrate. Is the process photosynthesis. So which is considered as the leader process. So in this process, plants, the producers which produce energy. So energy is carried out to different trophic levels. So first you are going to study the structure of ecosystem. There is structure and functions of ecosystem. In structure, ecosystem forms the structure which includes abiotic components as well as biotic components. So first one, abiotic components. What are the abiotic components includes in this? Which includes climatic factors, edaphic factors, and topographic factors. Ecosystem. So first question you are going to learn structure of ecosystem. Structure of ecosystem comprises of two important components. They are abiotic component and biotic component. Abiotic components which includes climatic factors. What are the climatic factors? That is temperature, humidity, this climate. The climatic factors, temperature, humidity, whether this all includes the climatic factors, and edaphic factors includes soil, air, pH of the soil, as well as the soil which is present in the soil, air, and the pH of the soil. So related to soil, all the components are coming under edaphic factors. Then topographic factors includes latitude as well as altitude. So these all abiotic components. The structure, the ecosystem, the topic is ecosystem. You remember this, ecosystem, which consists of structure and function. The structure which is made up of or comprises of abiotic components and biotic components. Abiotic components, already in the previous chapters you learned this, factors affecting ecology, climatic factors, edaphic factors, and topographic factors. The same factors which comes under abiotic factors. These all are abiotic. Then biotic factors. Biotic factors includes here autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs, heterotrophs. What are autotrophs? As you know that process of photosynthesis, green plants, the producers, green plants are considered as producers because they are the first level of ecosystem or trophic level. Producers, green plants, they have the ability to manufacture the food. So photosynthetically or chemosynthetically, it manufactured its own food. So they are called as autotrophic organisms. Example of autotroph is green plants, which has the ability to convert light energy into chemical energy. So it prepares its own food. So such food productivity, they are called as autotroph. These autotrophic organisms are consumed by heterotrophs. So heterotrophs includes, the autotrophic organisms are the producers or green plants. But heterotrophs includes macroheterotroph and microheterotrophs. Macro and micro. What are the differences among this macroheterotroph and microheterotroph? Heterotroph are the organisms which are known as consumers. These consumes the autotrophs. The heterotrophic organisms which consumes the plants. So autotroph. They are called macro consumers or macroheterotroph. The consumers are called as macroheterotroph and microheterotroph are the decomposers. Here, decomposers. What are decomposers? They are the bacteria and fungi. Mainly bacteria and fungi includes decomposers. Bacteria and fungi. These organisms decompose the plants as well as animals. So which decompose, degrade all the complex substances into smaller substances. Example, bacteria and fungi, they are called as decomposers, which decompose the plants and animals, which is again utilized by the plants, autotrophs. So this all includes biotic factors. So biotic factors are mainly classified into autotroph as well as heterotrophs. Abiotic components, they are climatic factors, edaphic factors as well as topographic factors. So this is the first question, that is structure of ecosystem. Then second question is functions of ecosystem. So functions including the productivity. So before learning the functions of ecosystem, here functions of ecosystem, the production of biomass. What's biomass? The net weight of the carbon weight, biomass. So before learning this this productivity, let's learn about this sunlight, source of energy, light energy. You know the sun is the source of energy. Sun is the source of energy. For photosynthesis, here the main process is photosynthesis because produces in the first level of trophic level, photosynthesis or autotrophs produces, which plays very important role, which convert the light energy into chemical energy. So this light energy, the photosynthetically active radiation, photosynthetically active radiation, which is known as PAR. PAR. What's meant by PAR? It is photosynthetically active radiation. Photosynthetically active radiation is otherwise called PAR. PAR. Important, one word or two more questions is important. PAR, photosynthetically active radiation. So what's this? For photosynthetic reaction, the plants take certain percentage of light energy. So it takes only 2 to 10% of light, which absorbs mainly in blue as well as red spectrum. There are 34% of light from the sun, 34% of light which reflects in the atmosphere, which reflected back to the atmosphere. And there are 2 to 10% which is utilized. Only 2 to 10% of energy the plants can utilize for photosynthetic process. Then remain 56% is in the earth, on the earth. Then remaining percentage which emits in the form of heat. So plants utilizes only this amount. One more question is important. For photosynthetic process, because light is the source of energy, chlorophyll pigment which traps the sunlight and converts this light energy into chemical energy, and it releases oxygen. During photosynthesis, oxygen is released. Plants take carbon dioxide and it releases oxygen. So there is a in the living and biotic and abiotic components, there is an interaction between living living organisms with the space of this abiotic components. So there is an interaction, the living organisms and the non-living organisms, that forms the ecosystem. So here photosynthetically active radiation, there are 400 to 700 nanometer. Here the nanometer is 400 to 700 nanometer. The plants photosynthetically active radiation, which is important. Now productivity of an ecosystem. In the functions of the ecosystem, main function is productivity. What's meant by productivity? That is the rate of biomass production. The total amount of biomass production is called as productivity per unit area. So through this it's called the productivity. What's meant by productivity? The rate of biomass production per unit area is called as productivity. So this productivity is classified into 3 different types. Primary productivity, secondary productivity, and community productivity. There are three different types of productivity. They are primary productivity, secondary productivity, community productivity. So what is meant by primary productivity? The primary productivity is the gross amount of the energy, biomass. So that plays, the green plants plays important role, autotrophs. The autotrophs which manufacture the food material, the food energy. The total productivity is the total amount of food energy is productivity. So it includes two different types, gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. Primary productivity is two types, gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. The gross means the total amount of energy or the biomass is called as gross primary productivity. Primary productivity is the energy which is produced by autotrophs. Now this autotrophs, the energy is present in the productivity which is utilized by living organisms. By respiration, some amount of energy is lost. So NPP, that is net primary productivity, is equal to GPP minus respiration. So here gross productivity, the total amount of energy which is present in the autotrophs or the producers, which can be utilized by the living organisms. So net productivity, primary productivity is the gross primary productivity minus respiration. During respiration, certain amount of energy is released and lost. So that is called net primary productivity. Then second productivity is secondary productivity. This is, here there is a net amount of, there is a gross amount of, total amount of energy which can be utilized or consumed by the consumers or the heterotrophs. The heterotrophic organisms which consumes the autotrophs. So here it lost certain energy. So that secondary, which is also classified into secondary productivity, also classified into gross secondary productivity and net secondary productivity. So what's meant by this gross productivity? The total amount of plants which is ingested from the heterotrophs. So this gross secondary productivity example is heterotrophic organisms. Heterotrophic organisms which consumes or ingest, it utilizes, it consumes the autotrophs, plants. So here the gross secondary productivity is the total amount of plant material ingested by herbivorous animals. It's called gross secondary productivity. And this one, NSP, what is this? Net secondary productivity. The biomass from the biomass by consumers per unit time. Per unit time, the biomass from the consumers, it consumes, how much it consumes, and after respiration. So here also after respiration, some amount of loss of energy. So that is in net secondary productivity. Here gross primary productivity, net primary productivity. Here gross secondary productivity and net secondary productivity. Then community productivity. So community productivity is the rate of net synthesis of organic matter. Net synthesis of organic matters by a group of plants per unit area. By a group of plants per unit area, there is a production of or synthesis of organic matter. matters is called as community productivity. So this community productivity may be affected by different factors. There are number of factors which affects the production. Production can be affected. So this is the functions of ecosystem. Functions which includes productivity, the net gain or the gross amount, the total amount of energy which is stored in the plants as well as in the ecosystem, which can be utilized, and that energy is passed through different trophic levels. So diagrammatically, which can be represented by different trophic levels called T1, T2, T3 and T4. So trophic level 1, trophic level 2, trophic level 3 as well as trophic level 4. So this energy, the productivity, from this productivity, the total amount of energy in the ecosystem can be passed through different levels of ecosystem. They are known as different trophic levels, named as T1, T2, T3, T4. What's this? Trophic level 1, trophic level 2, trophic level 3 and trophic level 4. Here T1 is considered as trophic level 1 is the producers. What are the producers? The green plants are the example of producers, autotrophs. Plants, green plants. Green plants possess the chlorophyll pigment, which has the ability to trap the sunlight and convert the light energy into chemical energy and synthesize carbohydrate. At the same time, it releases oxygen to the surrounding. It takes carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. Look at this tablet column. Here there are different trophic levels T1, T2, T3 and T4, which represent T1, which represents producers. T1 or producer. T2 is consumers. This producer is autotroph, that is plants are consumed by consumers. The consumers are two types, primary consumer, three different types of consumers: primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. Primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumers. They consume this energy from trophic level 1. Energy can be consumed by primary consumer, secondary consumer as well as tertiary consumers. So what are the examples? Autotrophs or trophic level 1. The example is plants, green plants. These plants are eaten by herbivores. There are number of herbivores are there. So the herbivore, one of the example is rabbit. Rabbit is the herbivore, and this herbivore is considered as primary consumer. And this primary consumer is consumed by another organism, that is snake. That is carnivore, which is called as either secondary consumer or primary carnivore. Carnivore or secondary consumers. Example, snake. And this snake is eaten by eagle. So eagle is considered as secondary carnivore. Primary carnivore is snake, secondary carnivore is eagle. Likewise, some organisms, certain organisms which consume both plants as well as animals. Here there is an example, crow. This crow is considered as omnivore. What's meant by omnivore? These herbivores are the plant eaters. They eat only the plants, herbivores. Consumers or carnivores, this consumers which is the herbivores. But omnivores, they eat both plants as well as animals. So this crow eats this plant as well as this rabbit or snake or everything it eats. The plants as well as the animals it eats everything. So it's called as omnivore. So this is the example of trophic levels. So this is the basic thing you must know about this diagrammatic representation of trophic level. There are 4 different types of trophic level called as T1, T2, T3, T4. The energy can be flow from this productivity, the net gain of energy which can be flow from this trophic level, first trophic level to second trophic level, and from second trophic level to third, and from third trophic level to fourth trophic level, and its examples. So once again you see this example, the producers are considered as autotrophs. The example is green plants. The producers are eaten by primary consumer or the herbivore, example rabbit, and the primary consumers are eaten by secondary consumers, which is the third trophic level, that is primary carnivore, example snake, and the secondary consumers are eaten by tertiary consumers. The example is eagle, that are otherwise called secondary carnivore. Then one more question, there are some parallel terms for ecosystem. Here the topic is ecosystem. Different scientists, they give different names, parallel names given to this ecosystem. They are biocenosis. One of the parallel term is biocenosis, microcosm, geobiocenosis, holocene, biosystem, bio-inert body. So these are all the parallel terms given to the term ecosystem. What are they? Biocenosis, microcosm, geobiocenosis, holocene, biosystem, bio-inert body. So once again, let's recall what you learned today. Ecosystem, the ecosystem which includes structure and function. Structure is abiotic and biotic components. Structure which forms the biotic and abiotic components. And functions, there are different productivity, primary productivity, secondary productivity, and community productivity. And finally, there is some diagrammatic representation of trophic levels. Learn these 3 questions before attend the next class. Thank you.